Today, I had a conversation with Kerry Stevenson from Calgary, Alberta. In our conversation, we talked about some of the effects that migration from other provinces has had on Calgary, some of the advice that buyers and sellers should be receiving when trying to enter and participate in the Calgary real estate market, and of course, the most important question of all, in 2022, should you be buying a home in Calgary? So thanks very much, Kerry, for joining us in the Calgary market and spending some time to talk about what home buying is like in Alberta.
Yeah, thanks, Conrad. I appreciate the invitation. And it's a bit crazy here these days. A lot of multiple offers, a lot of buyers,
I can imagine.
and some happy sellers.
Yeah, yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt, eh?
Yeah.
So how about let's start this by telling me a bit about yourself.
I'm with the Royal LePage Benchmark. I've been in the real estate business since 1980. So this is my 42nd year. I started with Melton Real Estate, who was bought out by A. LePage, who merged with Royal LePage, and then Royal LePage franchised most of their offices in 1994. And so I've been with the same company all that time. It's worked really well for me. It's been a great company. They embrace technology, which is something that I do as well as a realtor. And here I am after
So
that.
42 years. So
42 years.
You've seen a few ups and downs in the market.
I have, yeah, and I'm still married to the same wonderful woman, which is a miracle in itself.
That's right. Especially when you're in real estate, you have to deal with all that, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. So she's been great that way, and she's still stuck with me. We have three sons and four grandchildren now, and two of my three sons work with me at Team Stevenson.
Nice, awesome.
Yeah.
So they're in the business. So they're like, look at Dad. He's managed to survive a few decades. We can do the same thing.
Absolutely, and they're doing well. Robbie's been in the business now for 15 years. It's hard to imagine.
Yeah.
And Chad is in his first year.
Nice.
And Rob, he's lived the last 10 years in South Calgary, so he's very familiar with the South Calgary market.
Yeah.
Chad and I are in the North End, and so we handle more the North End market here. So we've got the city. We've got the city covered.
So you said 42 years, that's a long time, right? And so with all the different ups and downs, how does this current market compare to stuff that you've seen in the past? Is it anything like you've seen before, or does it compare to something that you've seen in the past?
This is a totally different market, Conrad, from what I've seen in the past. This market is not based on jobs and income. It's more a market that we're seeing that is coming from migration to Calgary by people coming from other cities that it's just too expensive to buy in, and they see great value in Calgary. The city itself is vibrant and young. We're 40 minutes away from the mountains and recreation. It's just a lot of opportunity here. So a lot of families, thousands of families, are literally considering it as a destination right now.
Okay, so let's talk about that, because I agree with you, and I'm seeing very similar stuff as well on our end. Lots of people coming from places like Toronto and Vancouver. More Toronto than Vancouver, it seems, in the conversations I've had. I don't know if that's similar to you. Is it?
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen some people coming from rural areas in BC, as well as different parts of Ontario as well.
Yeah. Okay. Because
the Ottawa area.
In the cases that I've seen, and maybe this is contributing to some of the craziness, but like one of the examples that I've seen so far is, we had a home buyer that moved out to Toronto. We handled their mortgage or whatever back in 2019, I believe it's what it was. And they were looking at a house at that time that was listed for 400 and they bought it for 450. So they overbought by about 50K. And they're like, Conrad, we just don't know about this. Like, we're overpaying or whatever. And the realtor's like, don't worry, it'll be fine. Right. So it just so happens, though, that 2 years later, the thing appraises for $840,000.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
They just got it appraised. I guess that's 2.5 years, but still, that's a crazy amount. Right. And what's their thought? Well, we sell this and we take that equity and we go to Calgary and we're going to go ahead and buy Calgary, because now we can buy something really nice with all this money. And I have a feeling that that's happening more than just that one isolated case. What's some of the stuff that you've been seeing?
Yeah, this market's a little different, Conrad. And like I say, it's not being fed by jobs and income. It's more about migration. So It's different than the 2006, 2007 market in Calgary, where we actually saw prices double. Our prices aren't doubling here, but they've gone up
Okay.
significantly.
Yeah.
So, in October, I'll give you an example. I did an evaluation for a couple in October. The comparables indicated a list price around 549. They wanted to push price. They were looking at retiring or semi-retiring in the BC area, and they wanted to push price to the sixes if they could. The market really was just starting to pick up then. We were selling homes in the fives there, in the 500 range. And then in November and December, the market kept accelerating. Into January, I touched base with them again, looking at the comparables in their neighborhood. I said, we're going to list at 649. So $100,000 gain in that time frame. And we put it on the market at 649 and sold it for 712,000.
Wow.
So
that's incredible.
Yeah, incredible gain from that period of time. And the market changed that much. And a lot of it was this stampede of migrating buyers from other
I
cities.
love that you're from Calgary and you use the term stampede.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
We can handle that a little better. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But it's true though. Like we've seen this massive migration. So are you seeing a lot of overbidding then in your market?
Yeah, we have. In January and February, we had, I don't know if it's overbid. Well, it can be overbidding for sure. And what I say to my clients is that even though we get outbid sometimes and a house sells, I'll give you an example. There was a property that I had clients that bid on that was listed at, I think it was $599, and it sold for $703. And we had offered, I think 30,000 over the asking, but it went 103 over the asking. But even though they pay that, it doesn't make it a good value, even in this market.
Right.
And that's where that fear of missing out and sometimes the people just like the house that much. That's where they picture themselves being. And there's nothing wrong with that if you can afford it. But there can be better value. And that couple I just sold at $699, a far better home.
So that fear of missing out, FOMO, as they call it, right?
Yeah.
How are you prepping your buyers going into this market? Because this isn't an uncommon thing right now. There's you can expect that these home buyers are going to get frustrated that they're going to put in an offer that's going to get rejected because of some crazy higher offer. Like what are you doing to prep buyers?
Well, the first thing is that first step is getting pre-approved. We really want to make sure that they have a good pre-approval in place, that they understand what they can afford.
Oh, I like you, Kerry.
Yeah. Starts with you, Conrad. Absolutely. But that's of course where they have to start, and they have to have the confidence to move forward. And that'll also tell them, they may have to make an offer without conditions in it to be more competitive. And a lot of these offers that are going through have no conditions, no home inspection condition, no home inspection condition, no financing condition. But they would have to get your blessing on that they could do that. Because if they are in a risky position, if the house didn't appraise, with the bank and institution that they're getting their financing from,
that they got to cover and all sorts of stuff.
If they couldn't meet their conditions that they have to get the financing, we've got a huge problem on our hands. And it's egg on everybody's face and a sale falling through later on. So
you're trying to make sure that your buyers are going in with their eyes wide open.
Eyes wide open, well prepared, so that's the first step. Also that they have their deposit ready, that they have their financing ready to go. I spend a lot of time with them talking about market value, where it's been exactly what I've talked about with you today about, the market was at 550 in October. It's now here.
Right.
And some buyers don't have the ability to make an offer without conditions, and they have to be very patient or just wait till the market, slows down. And sellers markets always slow down. They can't go on forever. There'll be peaks and valleys. And even 2006, 2007, when our market literally doubled in 1 year, our average price was around 200,000 in 2006. By the end of 2006, it was 400,000. And then it went up another 100,000 in 2007. And then it changed. And one of the I guess signals for me to notice when the market changes is watching the float of listings. So today, as we're talking in the Calgary real estate area, there's about 1,800 single family homes available, which is very low. Traditionally, we have about 3,500 any one time. So we're down about 50%. So I watch that number.
So that inventory obviously isn't being changed anytime soon, right? Like it's hard to bring new inventory to the market, especially if you have this mass migration, stampede of migration to a city then, right?
Absolutely.
So then are you doing anything? I mean, this might be not a dumb question, but a simple question. Are you doing anything to prep your sellers then when you're bringing them to the market? Like, what are you doing on the sales side where you're just like, you're about to list your house, it's about to get crazy? I mean, what strategies are you employing there?
Yes, well, I follow my sellers' instructions and how they want to handle the market, but I educate them to what's going on. So we'll give some history on, I do talk about the 2006, 2007 market, the differences in today's market where it's not wage generated, it's migration orientated. So people have cash in hand, but their jobs aren't paying anymore. So I think we're limited in our ceiling of house price. So I mean, as we've had this big bump up, what was 550 is now selling at 7. I don't think it's going to be 9 at the end of the year, right? It's starting to run into some resistance. We're noticing that at that 7 range, and for the seller, so I like to give them some good information, some background on the comparables of what we're dealing with right now, the multiple offers that have occurred in their neighborhood, and how they want to handle multiple offers. And a typical strategy is we would list on a Wednesday night, have showings Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and look at offers Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon.
So then, and for the sellers in this case, and this is something that I've started seeing in I don't know if you follow any American news and stuff like that regarding real estate and stuff like that. Right. I follow, North America as a whole, actually international as well. But in this case, there's a lot of American realtors that are saying that they're being cut out on the selling side because there's all these buyers. So why do I need a seller, or why do I need a realtor to sell a property? And I think that, personally, I think that's highly dangerous because I've seen what happens when that goes wrong. But maybe you can speak to some of the reasons why someone might actually still choose a realtor, even though there's all these buyers swarming around.
Yeah, absolutely, Conrad. It's a good point. There's still a lot of advice that the seller needs at the time of the offer, and you also want to treat the buyers and the realtors fairly in that process. And the sellers aren't always aware of, not so much more the rules of the game, but just the right way to proceed. Also, it's about marketing, and our marketing doesn't change, even though the market's fast and it's working quickly. We do the same marketing. So we do a sales video. We prepare before we go to market. So when we list on Thursday, it's not that just we sign the contract on that day. We've signed the contract the week before. Then we do a sales video, a 3D eye guide, so that the buyers have access to all the information on the property. Some sellers, we recommend they do a home inspection on their home prior to, because we're going to have multiple offers. So the buyers have more information. And when the buyers have all the information and they see the sales features of the home, and we're still doing our job selling the features of the home, it's just compressed into a shorter time frame. And yet the result is better. And it's those relationships that the realtors have with their buyers that helps get that price higher for the seller.
Yeah. That's actually a really good point though too, and you brought up something that I think I want to touch on there. You're saying that you're doing the home inspection for the buyers essentially, because you're doing, do you do that commonly, or?
I ask my sellers if they want to do it, right? So it's there's 2 strategies there. One for the buyers to do their home inspection before they make their offer. The other is for the seller to do one home inspection and then have that available for all the buyers to look at.
That's actually pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it would depend. I think if there's things to disclose, I think it's a good thing to do. Then you can put it up in your documents that the realtors can review and see that, and so they can see what the issue is and identified by a home inspector. And then the buyers have those questions answered, and then that gives them more knowledge to move as high as they're prepared to go on that property.
Right. And someone one of the realtors that I saw in the States, for instance, when he was saying whether or not you should cut a realtor out, he's like, I could list my home for 580 and sell it for 600. And the realtor was like, or you could do your homework and sell it for 650. Right? Well,
exactly.
In this market, it's possible that you might have a gap that big.
Yeah, that's well put. you can see that happen in this marketplace. There's different models of real estate out there, and there was another model of real estate where the seller sells it on his own. And I brought him an offer on his property with another client, and then he started getting other offers, and then he didn't know how to handle it. He said, you know what? He says, I really appreciate your offer, but I'm going to talk to my agent that it was a mere posting. I'm going to talk to my agent and see what I have to do here, to get the situation. And then their realtor stepped in, gave more service to them, and handled those multiple offers, and they dealt with it properly, and we were still successful in that situation. But the seller can become quite overwhelmed, and then also,
especially if they're not used to it, right? Like, when the market's moving fast, you need to know your stuff super well.
Absolutely. And we don't take any shortcuts in this market. We do our full marketing so the buyers see that, but we also do our qualifying of those offers that are coming in. I have a conversation with every one of the real estate agents that are presenting an offer. Are your clients pre-qualified? Where are they coming from? I'll see what they'll tell me. How long have you worked with them? A lot of realtors are working with clients they've never met. They've met them online, like a Zoom meeting like this, and then they're making an offer on a house. So, there is a lot more of a possibility of a deal going south if the buyer hasn't seen the product yet, right? And so they make the offer from Hamilton, Ontario. They fly out here to do their home inspection if it's not an unconditional deal, and they say, we don't like that. And then you're back to square one. And then if they back out, so
as a percentage, how much would you say is unconditional these days? Because I'm not a big fan of unconditional offers. I think they're highly dangerous.
Yeah,
they're like a worst case scenario, but I know they're growing in popularity too.
Yeah, they have to have backing, Conrad. Like, a lot of times they have to have backing from family or from their corporation that's moving them here to do that. I wouldn't recommend to a family that doesn't have. You have to have the capital available to do that. If you don't have the capital, it's just too risky. And
I would agree.
So you have to watch out for that. On a percentage, though, all my last 5 sales were unconditional.
Wow.
So
Jeez.
yeah, so and then it's hard to say, on the MLS, I would say maybe 70% are unconditional right now.
That's incredible. That's a high number.
Yeah, let me just look at the stats here, if you just have a sec here. So for sales, maybe 50%, I'd say, because our stats, our daily stats show 39 solds and 31 pending. So I would say 50% rather than 70%. Maybe that might be skewed just by, kind of my experience, what's going on right now. And, but it looks about 50%.
So are you advising your clients when you're going in, you're saying, hey, this might be a possibility. This might be an option.
Yes, absolutely. And I asked them to think about it beforehand and to see if they can do it. We have that conversation. And some clients, I advise they should wait until the market slows down, because it will. Our listing inventory is increasing. We are getting more listings. I'm putting on 5 this week myself. So, the listing inventory is starting to increase, and that'll give more selection, although the prices have moved ahead as well.
Okay, so you've mentioned this a couple of times now. You talk about, the inventory, growing, but more specifically, housing prices slowing down. And I agree. I think that, like, I even just did a video on it recently. It's my last video, actually, talking about, what's expected for housing prices with all these rate increases and immigration and migration and all that stuff. The Calgary market specifically, though, I mean, I have some thoughts on it, but I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think that's going to happen? Let's call it 2022, 2023, and 2024. We obviously, it's too hard to predict beyond that, and it's probably too hard to predict 2023 and 2024. But let's pull out our crystal balls for a second and take a peek.
Okay, if you're not going to hold me accountable for it.
This is all gospel. Everybody who's watching this needs to write this down, because this is exactly what's going to happen.
Okay, well, I'll do my best Nostradamus here for you. I think we're going to see good activity into the spring, have a good strong market till June. I think in the summer, we're going to have a lot of sellers go on holidays and a lot of buyers go on holidays, enjoy the summer, especially with COVID. We all need a break from the stresses that we've gone through with this. It's been hard on everyone. And so I think we'll see that in the summer, and the market will get a little more balanced at that time. I think we'll see a lot of listings come on in the spring here in the March, April, May market, and our prices, I think, will level off. In the fall, it really is based on this migration, but I could see the market slipping a bit as interest rates rise, because we see the interest rates rising to control inflation. So I could see our market stepping back for a
Then
year.
when you say slipping, do you mean like coming down in price or
I think
flattening?
I think it's going to flatten over the summer, and in the fall we could see a drop in prices.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Depending on, that's when we typically see our prices drop, is in the fall.
Right.
Generally we don't have many buyers in the fall. Not we don't have as many buyers in the fall. I've had clients that have bought in the fall, fixed it up over the winter, and sold in the spring, and done well every year for years.
Oh,
Right.
interesting. Okay.
This past year, it's the first time ever in my career I've seen the fall be so busy and prices actually increase in November and December,
Hmm.
ever in 42 years. So
Yeah.
it's been crazy. 2006, we could see the trend starting in November and December. Like there was just no listings available, but the prices didn't start going up until January, February,
Right.
which is normal. Um,
So then it tails off in 2022. What happens 2023?
And what I think is going to happen in Alberta is our economy is getting better. Oil and gas is strengthening right now. They aren't doing a lot of exploration yet. Like there's not a lot of new exploration, but as that industry, if there's confidence coming back to it, that money will start to get spent again, and there's going to be a lot more employment happening. Dollars will be increasing, spin-off businesses. With oil and gas, there's a whole new side with the ESG, that there's going to be a lot of controlling emissions. So a lot of different startup companies that are going to be
Okay.
employing
Yeah.
more people to control to meet those green requirements. So
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot more work, a lot more money coming into the city. So I think our economy, in 2023 is going to start to take hold. And in 2024, I could see our prices moving ahead again, but now based on the strength of jobs
Like
and
actual
employment.
fundamentals.
Actual fundamentals. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good way to put it. And I think we're going to see that. So, and the migration, we'll probably still have people coming here, but for jobs here, as opposed to right now they're coming here and their jobs are still in Ontario or still in BC, and
Oh,
they're
yeah.
working from
Yeah.
home. And I had clients earlier this year, that's exactly what happened. One with the CRA, that they could live anywhere in Canada. They chose Calgary,
Right.
but their job's still in Ottawa.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
There's lots, and I think post pandemic, there's a lot more of that than ever before, with a lot of people being able to work from wherever. Like even I myself, right? Like I'm in my basement in my home right now. Like I converted it into a YouTube studio. I work from here. We got rid of our office like 2 years ago. I have zero intention to go back. Like even my staff, they all work from home. I'm like, as long as you get your crap done, I don't care where you are.
Yeah. I think a lot of businesses are like that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So are you going to see, like, and I mentioned this like in a past video as well, are you going to see, in your opinion, rural areas affected more when this pandemic stuff lifts and people start migrating back to like more core city center type environments, or like once restaurants and bars and all that other stuff is open again? Are we going to see less interest in rural and therefore maybe more of a price pressure, flat or downward, in those rural areas?
That's a good question, Conrad. Calgary's downtown is still really hard hit. It's really empty downtown. I think it's going to take a few years to fill that up again. So, and I think people like living in the rural areas. It's a slower pace. It's just a nicer pace of life, and so I think that'll be a slow transition, unless businesses say, yeah, you got to be in the office 9 to 5, 5 days a week.
Right.
If that's what the employer is demanding, then I think we'll see that more. But if they can work, like right now, there's a lot of hybrid arrangements going on where you can work from home 2 days and in the office 3 days, and that seems to work well too.
I mean, that seems like a good mix to me. But yeah, so you think that rural might not be as necessarily as affected unless the core starts requiring people to be present.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think there'll be more demand, but not for a few years yet. I think it could transition that way, but I think it'll be a few years.
Well, I think this pandemic has a lot of effects that are going to trail for many, many years to come.
Absolutely.
I mean, even if you look at our federal budget, it's going to take a good couple decades to pay that baby off.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we have to have that economy rolling. So I think we're going to see that. We're coming out of this. I think we're going to see a really strong economy in Alberta and other parts of Canada.
So the $1 million question then, or $750,000 question, depending on what the average house price is out there, is now a good time to buy a house, or should people be waiting? Like, what's the sentiment there?
Well, it's all about timing. right? So about a family's timing, I think. And if it's time for them to get into the single family market, yes, it is good timing, because we don't have a crystal ball for sure. Like, I've given you my thoughts on what's going to happen in the
Yeah.
marketplace, but inflation could keep going on. And, we're seeing issues with the supply chain right now that's affecting the cost of building. To build a home is much more expensive now. So, your resale home is the best value in the marketplace. And if you're
Right.
patient in this market, you can still get really good value, I think, for Calgary. And so I think if the family's timing, if you need that house, that bigger house, now's the time to do it. If you have your down payment saved and your job situation is secure, now's the time to buy. We just can't predict what's going to happen in the future. And then, if you followed my thinking and the market's going to be stronger in 2024, what happens if you go to Australia for 6 weeks in
Right.
2024
Right. Yeah,
and the
that's
market
right.
takes off again? So if now is the time, just do it now. The interest rates are still pretty good, and really attractive right now. So and if it's affordable for you, start it now, because in 25 years you won't remember what you paid for your home.
Yeah.
It's clear title, and it's real estate is always generally a good investment. So
Well, the analogy that I've often heard is that real estate is like a yo-yo on an escalator, right?
yeah,
It goes up and
yeah,
down, but like the
yeah,
general trend is
is
upwards over time.
exactly, yeah. And we're
Yeah.
still much lower price than Ottawa, Toronto, and Vancouver. So I think it's a good time for people to be buying still.